40 for Rateable Crest Titans.
The 2019 Jersey Rally would once again attract a quality entry from both on and off the island. And it would be Ross Lenoir leading the crews away from the start on Friday afternoon, Daryl Morris, Jeremy Beldan and Steve Leonard following behind in a brace of escorts at the top. Chris West would be the first non-escort and indeed the first non-Jersey driver on the entry list this weekend in that 306 Maxi. And as usual, the rally would consist of 4 legs, 2 stages in each leg, and it would all start on Friday afternoon with the St Martin's stage. Onto the stages then, and it would be the early lead in the event for Steve Leonard and Sean Humphreys. The previous winners of the event would be looking to get their names on that trophy once again, opening out an 18-second lead. For Ross Lenoir and Dominic Vellante, it would be second. They might be chasing the lead, but they would certainly be putting the pressure on going into this evening's nighttime stages. They also lead the way in Class D. Second in that class, and indeed third overall in the results, would be Chris West and Robbie Hanna. Chris has enjoyed some good results in the Circuit Championship recently, but this of course is a far bigger challenge. The stage is in places only just wide enough for the car. Things would be going well for Daryl Morris and Steve Gully right up to the last stage in the leg. They hit a wall, but thankfully close to the end of the stage and don't lose a lot of time. Damaged steering would be the issue though and would need repairing. Second in Class C for the pair and fourth overall at this stage. For Jeremy Beldan and James Olivero, it would be 5th place overall. Jeremy last won the event in 1992, so was certainly overdue another win. Just 6 seconds back from Morris at this stage in the event. Things were going well for James and Mark Russell, certainly improving on their seeding already. They end the opening leg with 6th place overall and 4th in the class. Leading the way in Class E at this stage would be Neil Cotillard and Helia Lucas, the first of the 4-wheel drive crews on the results as they often were. 7th place overall on the results too. Mark Kelly and Neil Coleman came to Jersey last year and sadly retired very early on to the event when they hit a wall. Thankfully this weekend was going much better as the pair end the morning with 8th place overall. Simon Chapman and Peter Foy will be another crew hunting a win for a long time. They end the first leg with 9th place overall and 2nd place in Class E. Sadly, however, the pair would suffer some problems and retire soon afterwards. We would be expecting to see them again for the Trophy Rally though on day 2. And rounding out the top 10 now were John and Jason Lebrun, 3rd in Class C for the pair and 10th place overall in the ever-entertaining BMW. In some of the places outside the top 10, it would be 3rd place in Class E for Jim Munden and Daniel Hutchins. They would of course benefit from the loss of Simon Chapman in the next leg. One crew missing from the results would be Gary Lequardeau and Bill Painter. They break the handbrake on the start line of SS1 and would have to call it a day before coming back for the Trophy Rally. And we would also lose Ed Fossey and Will Rutherford. They don't snap the handbrake, but they do have problems at the hairpin. The car having issues and not starting again for them, meaning they have to pull off the stage into retirement. This weekend would be the first visit to the island for Di Roberts and Daniel Petrie. Things were going well as the pair lead the way in Class B and from a fantastic 13th place overall. They would need a clutch change in service before the next leg though. Second in that class behind Roberts would be John Eberle and Peter Jory. The Guernsey crew always pushing the little 106 well, and this weekend would be no different. This weekend would be only the 2nd event for Angus Torode and Sam Simon, which of course makes their 3rd place in class at this stage look even better. They end the morning with exactly the same time as Eberl on the overall results too. Stuart Thompson and Amy White would be suffering with a few overheating issues. They do still put in some good times to take the lead in Class A. Second in that class would be Paul Vibert and Michael Berger. The pair a little way off the class lead, but there was still a long way to go. And third in that class would be Kevin Shales and Steve Ahern. The fantastic looking Mini going well on the stages, and probably one of the few cars that actually fits down the lanes with room to spare. Sadly, we would lose Andy Corner and Aid Camp. Gearbox problems would put them out of the event early on. It would be a good start in the front-wheel drive 2 class for Craig Roberts and Carl Marshall. They take an early lead in that class in the Civic. Second in that class would be Carl Robert and Chris Pommier. 11 seconds the difference at the top of this class, so it was still all to play for. And rounding at the top of the front-wheel drive 2 class would be Richard Lynn McQuan and Trevor Rebay. Themselves a little further back on the overall results though. So with the first leg complete, the results here on the Roberts Jersey Rally look like this. On to the evening stages, 2 more stages in this loop, starting with the St Clement stage. Sadly, we will see some change in these stages as we lose Steve Leonard and Sean Humphreys. They retire from the event in this loop, another win having to wait another year. So that would of course mean change at the top, and the lead of the event would now belong to Ross Lanoa and Dominic Volante. Still leading the class of course, and now with an 11-second lead. Still behind on the overall end class results would be Chris West and Robbie Hanna. Second place in Class D, and closing in on the lead now. A big push would no doubt be on the cards for day 2. So rounding out the podium places would be James and Mark Russell. They'd be quite shocked to be this far up the leaderboard, but it was a great place to end the opening day for the Escort pair. For Jeremy Baldan and James Olivero, it would be 4th, 14 seconds back from Russell up ahead, but they didn't have a safe lead in that 4th place themselves either. The gap would be just 6 seconds back to Mark Kelly and Neil Coleman. This was essentially their first visit to the stages, having not done much of the event last year, so things were going really well for the pair with 5th place overall. We would see a few more changes in the results with the arrival of the dark. Dan Corner and Mark Regan climbed right up the results overall to end the evening in 6th place. There will be some time gained too for John and Jason Lebrun. They lead the way now in Class C and end the night in 7th place overall. The day certainly hadn't been without its issues for the pair though. Sadly, there'll be a drop down the results for Daryl Morris and Steve Gully. Their lights failed before the evening stages and the pair would have to make an emergency repair, unfortunately resulting in them getting a penalty for working on the car and a time control. They drop back to 8th place overall now. More change in the top of the results as we see Mark Sivray and Chris Fox climb up to 9th place now. They have a good run in the dark to move the Mark 1 Escort up to the top of the results overall and 3rd in the class. And rounding out the top 10 now would be Di Roberts and Daniel Petrie, still leading Class B, but they would be having problems with a bent rear beam in this evening's stages. Second in that class behind Roberts would still be John Eberl and Peter Jory. They were some way back from the class lead, but themselves in a fight for that 2nd place in the class. That fight was close with Paul Trabert and Jason Carr just 8 seconds back at this stage. The pair lying 3rd in that class and 28th on the overall results. There would be a change in Class E with the loss of Simon Chapman earlier in the event. Jim Munden and Daniel Hutchins now leading the way in the class and in 12th place overall. They would have that lead over Neil Cotillard and Helia Lucas, 16 seconds back on the results in the class, so they'll be looking to change that round on day 2. And third in that class now would be the newer Impreza of Michael Cotillard and Wendy Geary. A few minutes back from that battle up ahead, but in a battle of their own to hold on to that third place. In that front-wheel drive 2 class, it would be all change at the top. Carl Robert and Chris Pommier now leading the way in that class, and with a good advantage too. For Jair Rodriguez and Jordan Neal, it would be second place now. They jump up into the top of the front-wheel drive 2 class results in this evening's stages. And for our morning's class leaders, Craig Robert and Carl Marshall, it would now be third in the class. Not where they wanted to be, of course, but dropping back on the results was certainly better than dropping off them completely. With the overheating problems fixed, it would still be the lead in Class A for Stuart Thompson and Amy White. The pair not looking threatened on the times in that class either. It was just a battle against the event now. So with day 1 complete here on the Roberts Garage's Jersey Valley, the results at the top look like this. Day 2 and the stages make their way to the northwest of the island for the morning's legs, and the weather hadn't got any better. Once again we see some changes in the results and to the lead of the event. Chris West and Robbie Hanna now opening up a small advantage in that top spot themselves, 18 seconds ahead going into the final leg of the event. That of course meant a drop down to second for Ross Lenoir and Dominic Vellante. Certainly not out of the running yet, with plenty more stages to go. They could still take back that rally lead. Sadly, we would lose James and Mark Russell. They only passed our cameras once before aquaplaning and hitting a wall. So that opened up the door for Mark Kelly and Neil Coleman to step up onto the podium. They were over 2 minutes from the pair fighting it out for the lead, but they were certainly not going to be disappointed if they can just keep hold of this position to the finish. Things were going well for Jeremy Baldan and James Olivero, keeping out of trouble and in the running. Just 17 seconds back from Kelly up ahead, so still in with a chance of at least a podium place. Daryl Morris and Steve Gully were trying to climb their way back up the results. A podium wasn't likely, so the pair just had to enjoy it and see what they could do. They end the morning with the lead in Class C and 5th overall. Things were going well for Dan Corner and Mark Regan, 6th place at this stage in the event still, holding steady on the results and with a much smaller gap to 5th place ahead. And things were still going much the same for John and Jason Lebrun too. They remain in 7th place overall. That move back up the results for Morris though would see the BMW pair back to second in Class C for now. All change once again in Class E. Neil Cotillard and Helia Lucas managed to overhaul Jim Munden to take that class lead going into the final leg of the event. So for Jim Munden and Daniel Hutchins, it would now be 2nd place in the class. Still going well though, and the gap between the pair just 3.6 seconds. And rounding out the top 10 now would be Steve Ellis and Jamie Vaughan. They've been shown a red flag on day 1, resulting in a nominal time, which didn't go in their favour. They were catching back up now and trying to see what they could salvage on day 2. Class B wouldn't see any change. The problems at the end of day 1 wouldn't see Di Roberts and Daniel Petrie lose that class lead. They hold on to that with a comfortable margin now. Second in the class, but only by a small margin, would be Paul Trebert and Jason Carr. They had 16 seconds of an advantage going into the final leg of the event. And of course that means John Eberl and Peter Jory would have dropped down to 3rd place in this leg. Things were still close though, so it could still go either way. Unfortunately, we would lose Angus Trode and Sam Simon. They roll out of the event after hitting a tree on a previous stage and not noticing an oil leak, later rolling the car off the road. The front-wheel drive 2 class would see some changes. Back to leading the class now would be Craig Robert and Carl Marshall. They get themselves a small but reasonable lead in the class. So for previous leaders, Carl Robert and Chris Pommier, it would now be 2nd. They had a bit of catching up to do, but they would have enough stage miles to change that lead around. And for Jairo Rodriguez and Jordan Neal, it would be a slip down to third in the class. They would still be happy with the times though in that place. Stuart Thompson and Amy White would still be going well in Class A. They do clip a few banks along the way, but the result was looking good for the pair if they can get to the finish. For Paul Vibert and Michael Buzier, it would still be second place. In no man's land a little, with nothing to gain or lose on the times. They would just have to keep the pace and see where they finish. There would be some change for third in Class A though. James Weaver and Teresa Butler now stepping up to take third in that class, sadly at the expense of Kevin Shales in the Mini, who drops down to fourth in the class. So with just the final leg of competition to go, the results are shaping up like this. On to the final stages, then back to the east of the island, and the final chance for those positions to change. In Class A, things would remain much the same as they were this morning. James Weaver and Teresa Butler ending the event with third in that class in the MG. For Paul Vibert and Michael Buzier, it would be second in the class. A good advantage in that place, but unable to get close to the class leaders this weekend. And indeed, those class winners would be Stuart Thompson and Amy White. A new pairing, Amy returning to rallying after a 5-year break. A great way to return to the stages with that class win. Third in the front-wheel drive 2 class would go to Jairo Rodriguez and Jordan Neal at the end of the event. They have a good run in the Clio to take the class podium. After swapping the lead throughout the event, it would eventually be second place for Carl Roberts and Chris Pommier. A great result for the pair, and one they certainly would have taken at the start of the event. But that means it's the class win for Craig Robert and Carl Marshall. They managed to open out a bit of an advantage in the class by the finish 2, also ending the event with 19th overall. Class B was the last minute change, Paul Trabert and Jason Carr dropping back on the results to third place again in the final stages. Still a great result for the pair though. And that would mean that John Eberl and Peter Jory were able to get themselves back up into that second place that they held on day 1. A good end to the event and a good advantage to the finish 2. But there would be no change at the top. Di Roberts and Daniel Petrie take the Class B win, certainly not without its problems. A broken drive shaft on 2 separate occasions certainly slowed their overall times a little, but they do still take the class win, 13th overall, and the Colin McRae Memorial Handbrake Award. Michael Cotillard and Wendy Geary unfortunately don't make it to the end of the event this year. Crashing out on stage 26, the pictures of the car on the bank certainly giving the impression the pair were lucky not to roll. For Chris Lechevier and Oliver Holmes, it would be third place in Class E to end the event. A good result for the impressive pair this weekend in 21st place overall. Sadly for Jim Munden and Daniel Hutchins, there would be no taking back the class lead in day 2. They have a great run though to end the event with second place in the class and 16th overall. On to the top 10 overall, and it would be Mark Zivray and Chris Fox rounding out the top 10. They also take third place in Class C with that result this weekend. Pete Rayner and Teresa Fossey make a last-minute move into our top 10 at the end of the event. Teresa hadn't been well this weekend, so it was a great effort from the pair to even get to the finish. 9th place overall and 6th in the highly competitive Class D was a great result. The aim before the event was a top 10 finish for Steve Ellis and Jamie Vaughan, and they got exactly that. 8th place overall and 2nd in Class C. Their timing issues on day 1 could have seen them a few places higher on the results, but they would have to wait until next year to see if that was the case. The highest placed 4-wheel drive crew on the event this weekend would be Neil Cotillard and Helia Lucas. They take an impressive class win, as well as finish the event in 7th place overall in the Impreza. It would be a great end to the event for Dan Corner and Mark Regan. They take 6th place overall this weekend in the Peugeot 205 and 5th place in Class D as well. With the day one penalties holding them back a little, it would be a steady run to the finish for Daryl Morris and Steve Gully. They knew a podium was out of the question and just went at a pace that they were happy with. It was enough for 5th place overall and the win in Class C. Nothing much would change in the afternoon for Jeremy Baldan and James Livereau. They keep the pace and end the event with 4th overall and in the class. A good result for the pair, but that long-awaited second win would have to wait another year. On to the podium places then, and it would be 3rd for Mark Kelly and Neil Coleman. A great result for the pair, making up for the bad luck of 2018. They show some great pace on the stages to put the Escort on the final step of the podium. Unfortunately for Ross Lenoir and Dominic Vellante, they would have to settle for 2nd place this weekend. It had been a great battle throughout the event, but sadly the win would elude them for this year. 2nd place was a great finish for the pair, who would of course be back to claim that winner's trophy in 2020. But that of course means that it's the win for Chris West and Robbie Hanna. A fantastic second day would see them open up a good lead by the finish, putting the West name on the top step of the podium for the first time after many years of the family trying. So before we chat to our winner, here's a reminder of how those final overall results looked here on the Roberts Garages Jersey Rally 2019. Congratulations, Chris. You've had a right little battle going on today.
Yeah, no, definitely. I still can't believe we won, really, to be honest with you. We've had 4 years. We've had some bad luck here, and you start to doubt where it's going to, you can pull it off. But yeah, everybody's driven really well. It's been really, really challenging, this rally, and it's really, really slippy. And, I'm shocked at how fast we were going, to be honest, in some places. But no, and this man kept me on the black stuff. He's,
only just.
Yeah.
Only just.
But no, I'm over the moon.
I mean, you were really, really pushing, weren't you?
Last night we knew we had to push on. Obviously we were taking big time out of the leaders. When we saw Steve go off and he'd had a big crash, I think realism hit a little bit, and we obviously we lost a bit of time on that stage to help out. But to be honest with you, I'm glad we did, because we could back off a little bit after that, because it was getting a bit scary out there.
And what was the mentality this morning? Was it like, right, we can have this now, let's go?
Yeah, I think after last night we sort of, slept on it, and I said to him, we'll have one big push on 2 of the stages to see if we can sort of match Ross Lenoir. And we were quicker, and then after that, we just kept pushing and finding it.
I might have lied a little bit about stage times to him.
Yeah, he did a couple of times. There were some swear words certainly in the car. So he sounded like going slower than I actually was. So yeah. So no, yeah, I'm over the moon. I'm really, really pleased.
Congratulations, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very
much.
Thank you.
Care 40 for Rateable Crest Titans.